Now let's look back to that decision of the MPC to retain all parameters again for the next 2 months. We speak to the Director of Monetary Policy Department, Dr. Victor Obo, joins us from our Abuja studio. Dr. Obo, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon and good afternoon, Nigerians.
So, of course, we've seen headline inflation easing 3 consecutive months. How confident is the Monetary Policy Department that the current rate is optimal to sustain this trend?
Thank you once again. The Monetary Policy Committee, in its wisdom, retained the rates yesterday. And that happened after a rigorous interrogation of the data, both at the global and domestic macroeconomic environment, and noted that even though the inflation is trending downward, and of course, for the 3rd consecutive month, which is salutary, there's need to hold the current stance to be able to have a firm grip of inflation so that we don't witness a resurgence. So direct to your questions, the outlook looks very good, and with a number of factors in our favor, we are hopeful that inflation will continue to trend downward sufficiently to a level at which point the committee will decide what next to do.
So how effective has the pass-through from the 875 basis point increase in MPR during the 2024 been in curbing inflation? Are there sectors, manufacturing, small businesses credit, that are still lagging behind?
Thank you. The policy tools at the disposal of the committee have been deployed effectively, and you can see the results for yourself. We have seen inflation trending downward, gradually, and I have said this in several other fora, that inflation or prices generally is something that when you want to bring it down, it comes reluctantly, what economists call, stickiness of downward trend in inflation. To bring inflation down, it is more sticky than something that will trigger it upward. So it takes time. And you will all agree with me that the last headline inflation stood at 22.22. This is not where we were 1 year ago. Nigerians should recognize that before now, we were over 30, percent of inflation. At one point, we were 34. Before, we are now trending downward and gradually to 22.2, which shows the efficacy of the tools that we are using. I want to let Nigerians know, to measure the effectiveness of our tools, that we used to conduct what we call counterfactual analysis. Counterfactual analysis tells you what would have happened if you have not intervened. If the bank has not tightened at the point and at the rate that it has done, inflation today would have been approaching 40%. All this show that in the absence of this intervention, would have been in a mess. So to directly answer your questions, our orthodox tools are working, and we are hopeful that we will get there. Thank you.
So what exactly are the factors that guided the committee's decision to hold?
Okay. So in terms of considerations that underpin the committee's decision, include, number one, the need to sustain the tempo of this inflation. We have seen inflation coming down, and we don't want to reverse the gains. We don't want any relapse. We don't want any resurgence in uptrend. The committee felt the need to sustain the tempo of this inflation so that we can have a full grip. That's number one. Number two, even though inflation is trending down, it is still at an uncomfortable high level. There's nothing like high and stable inflation. Inflation has to be low and stable for it to be conducive for growth to thrive. And so, all over the world and in line with best practice, what is desirable in every country is a single-digit inflation. Right now, we are double-digit, and so the MPC thought that it is not yet to huru, and so there is need to sustain the tightness of the stance to be able to bring inflation down further. The last point I want to mention is still the headwinds from the global environment. You all agree with me that the trade war and its fallout are still persisting, and there's need to hold a cautious approach to be able to assess the situations as it unfolds.
So when we look at all of this, I think one of the things that the governor talked about yesterday was the much talked about need for a handshake between the fiscal and the monetary authorities. And he seemed to give the impression that that has started. From your perspective, what are some of the specific measures that you think can bring this collaboration closer for the benefit of the economy?
Yes. Macroeconomic stability is a collaborative agenda. It's a collaborative objective. We are operating a single economy. So our inputs and roles as monetary authority and that of the fiscal authority has to complement each other. And that handshake is operationalized through what we call policy coordination. And as the governor mentioned yesterday, a lot has been done in that aspect. There are a lot of meetings that goes on at various cadre, and even at the topmost management level. We have seen a number of times where Mr. Governor and the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Minister of the coordinating Minister of the Economy has had to meet and discuss issues of common interest. We have seen the resolutions. As I speak to you, and for the first time in many, many years, the issue of ways and means advances, a practice that if you do that beyond the statutory limit, it can, trigger inflation. That issue has been laid to rest, and there is no more advances through ways and means beyond the statutory limit. And this is evidence of what we call coordinated policy between the two authorities. There are several other ones that are still ongoing, discussions among the technical level, among management level, to see that all these are done. So there are ongoing coordinations that are going on to ensure that there is a deeper handshake between the two authorities.
All right, Dr. Obo, thank you so much for telling us the considerations of the MPC before they arrived on their decision yesterday. Director, Monetary Policy Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.